Guys, what's going on? Welcome in. This is episode 7, I
Yes,
believe, right, of
sir.
the podcast. And unfortunately, the Jets are 1-3, 2 games below 500. But I gotta say, man, I can only speak for myself, but from what I saw from that game, we're in a much, much better position. I feel like moving forward, heading
Yeah.
to Denver next week, than post Dallas, post New England. There was a rough 2 game stretch. But Tyson, how's it going, man? How you feeling?
I'm a little tired. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little tired. You don't get a lot of sleep on Sunday night games, but I feel the same way, dude. You wake up annoyed and frustrated, but you have a glimmer of hope because we went into this game with a lot of doubt. Like, are we gonna get blown out? What's Zach gonna do? Are we gonna see Trevor Siemian play in Denver? To all these things, we're like, all right, now we feel rejuvenated. It's like, you know what? We have a chance now. You have like you saw an NFL offense with a kid that's kind of earning some respect, doing some good things. So it's not ideal. Being 1-3 sucks. If they found a way to win that game, you'd be like, wow, we're 2-2. You can make, it's a little bit easier to go about it. You lost 2 back-to-back close games, which sucks. But dude, there's a positive. There's a lot of positives in a loss for once.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, I know one thing I've been saying in a lot of these, in these past 2 videos that I've done, I know a lot of people aren't really about the moral victory
Yep.
side of it. At the end of the day, wins are what matter. What's
Yep.
your record, right? That's what, when you talk
Right.
about, coaching, legacy, quarterbacks, winning
Yep.
always is the main topic. But with that said, right, despite the Jets losing, I still, again, I'm just in a much better headspace
Yeah.
than I was last Monday after that Pats game, because after that game, it's like, really after that solid press conference, and it even, it trickling into the following day where Salah, I think, addressed the media again
Yep.
and almost double down on everything that he was saying. But essentially, I was in the headspace of like, okay, we're only 1-2, but it feels like we're 1-6,
Yep.
2-8. It seems like the Jets just don't have any sort of urgency to change up the game plan, any sort of sense of urgency to, potentially address quarterback, whether it's, a free agent trade or whatever it is. It seemed like they were completely fine with what they were seeing. But when we looked at this game, and also, the lingering thought of, okay, with all of this understood, we got the Chiefs next week,
Yeah.
right? Where I think we were either 8 or 9.5 point underdogs,
Yep.
at home, so the writing was kind of on the wall there. A lot of people expected the Jets to, I mean, I was talking to some people like, expect another Chiefs Bears game where the
Yep.
Chiefs put up 40 and, New York is just stumbling right out of the gate and they just, it's over in the first quarter. But to me, there were a lot of positives that you can pull, both, from the coaching side of it, from the quarterback side of it, from the offensive line side of it. What was if you had to pick out maybe 1 or 2 things that stood out to you above the rest, what would you say impressed you the most?
They made adjustments, dude. They made adjustments. When they were down 17-0, we're like, we're one play away from getting blown out, and this game's going to be over. They fought, they scratched, they clawed. The defense buckled down. They only get, 6 points after the first quarter. The offense completely opened up. They spread the ball around. They were throwing the ball on first down, but they opened it up. Like we talked about it last week, dude. Like the recipe for Zach to have success is let him throw the ball downfield. Let him get some confidence. Let him just play in the flow of the game. He's a great athlete. He's got a great arm. Show off his arm talent a little bit. Let him do these things. And they scratched, they clawed, they found a way, and it was him, dude. Like the one thing I kept saying with Zach is I didn't think this team believed in him. They didn't believe that he could help them win games. They just didn't trust him. He had to earn their respect. He did that last night. And then like defense is like, you know what? This offense is actually moving the ball. This offense is scoring points now, and they're getting everybody involved. So that was really encouraging, man. It's just that's a takeaway. And then they left some things on the field, which is unfortunate, but they played a very good team too. Like we're going to get caught up in all the penalties and stuff like that. But, the Jets made some mistakes on their own, but they were down 17-0. They were close to getting blown out. They ended up tying the game and should have won the game, to be honest with you. And it's like, all right, if you can go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs in a tough spot, you feel confident going forward. And you talked about it, dude. Like, this team could be dangerous now because now they can start believing in things. They can believe in one another. So, you know what? We've already went toe-to-toe with Mahomes. We can beat Russell Wilson. We can go, like everybody's saying, well, that Eagle game is so tough. You can go with Jalen Hurts. Not saying they're going to, but like, it's going to give them like a young team that they're all buying in now. The coach's message going through. I think Hackett's learning what he can do with this quarterback, what he can do with this offense. So, I mean, what do you think, though? There's some legit good takeaways coming out of this game.
Oh, 100%. I think the biggest takeaway was the quarterback play, right? Zach
Yeah.
Wilson not throwing multiple picks, not
Yep.
looking completely incompetent. But I think a part of that is because of the game plan and the play calling from Hackett.
Yeah.
Totally improved. I mean, this is something that like I feel like tons of Jets fans have talked about. We talked about this multiple times kind of on the pod, these last few episodes, but it's like, if the Jets want to stick with Zach Wilson, if they're the ones watching him in practice and they are, they're genuine when they say he gives us the best chance to win, he's better than the free agents, he's better than, the better backup quarterbacks that could be traded, he's better than Tim Boyle. That's fine. I'm not at practice. I'm not in the quarterback room.
Yep.
But if you want to roll with Zach, you got to do something differently. I mean, we're playing within a 15-yard box. It was, and this is another, analogy that we were talking about. It really felt like there was a wall beyond 15 yards. Like there was a rule at the start of the playbook, no plays beyond 15 yards.
Yep.
And that is not what we saw yesterday, right? We were pushing the ball down the field, tons of play action, getting Wilson outside the pocket. He was using his mobility, right? And I think, of course, the play calling was totally improved. The QB play benefited from that. I thought the offensive line looked a lot better too in pass protection. Was it perfect? No, but I will take that based off of what we saw the previous 3 weeks.
Yep.
But I think something too that the Jets can kind of hang their hat on is, although the Chiefs had their fair share of mistakes, like those Mahomes interceptions that was definitely weird.
Yeah.
Like just him like lofting it up. It almost just kind of seemed like he was giving it to the Jets defense, like especially that I think it was the first one where he just like lofted it in the air. And I was watching it with my brother and he was just like, dude, what was that? Like, what is going on? And he's a Bills fan. So he was just like, bro, Mahomes never has these moments against Buffalo. Like, I don't know how he's lining up against, you guys. And it's just like completely imploding. But the point is the Jets left a lot to like we did not play our best football, right? Michael Carter had like a crucial drop in that first half. CJ Mosley dropped an INT. The defense coming out a little slow, falling behind 17-0. All the flags too, the Sauce Gardner hold at the end, Jermaine Johnson, that whole thing. Just multiple, even like allowing Mahomes to scramble around on these third and longs and, allowing them to convert. The Jets were not perfect, but we went toe to toe with them. And, it felt like a boxing or a UFC match where it literally went right down to the final seconds between, a big underdog and the champion. So to me, that was kind of the gauge. And, unfortunately, I've seen like a lot of comments and a lot of takes today saying like, well, the Jets lost and Zach Wilson, mishandled the snap. And that's, it's same old Jets type of thing. But it's just like, I cannot put myself in that mindset. Yeah, we lost, but you don't just go from you don't go looking absolutely horrible, like the worst team in football, to a top 3 team and the season is saved 100%. In 1 week. There's a process there. So again, I'm not sitting here justifying the loss or saying that it's okay and we can go to Denver next week and lose and look better and say it's still totally fine. But it's like with what it felt like was the entire country, everybody was picking the Chiefs to win, including Vegas, obviously, for us to go toe to toe with them, despite a lot of the mistakes that the Jets rolled out. I am sitting here right now thinking, okay, the season is not lost. We're not tanking.
Nope.
The locker room isn't pointing fingers, and nobody is selling out on the season. And I would be lying if I said, I didn't have some of those concerns last Monday.
No, 100%, dude. I think it kind of galvanized the locker room a little bit. Now they're all like, all right, we're in this together. And that they're united afterwards. They handle it good. But that you made a really good point. Something I was trying to talk to you about with a couple people today. It's like, listen, Zach went from a quarterback with absolutely no confidence where nobody was believing in him to playing a very good game. It wasn't like everybody, oh, he fumbled, he still sucks. Look at where he was and look at where he is now. It's like night and day, dude. Like he's got some things to clean up, but that was so much progress on the biggest stage with the entire world watching, down 17 points, where everybody's like, this kid's killing us. And he rallied around it. And you look at, I guess we could probably go like to the position groups, like the offensive line, second week of the playing together. You're seeing better things. Like they're slowly but surely coming together where it's like, all right, because before this game, every defense is like, you know what, we're going to sell out to stop the run and dare Zach Wilson to beat us. That's the game plan. But now they're like, you know what? Zach Wilson can make some throws now. Now you have to change your defensive approach against the Jets offense, which is good. So the one thing I wanted to ask you about was the running back is interesting because to me in the fourth quarter, I'm a kind of old school fan. I'm like, I want my best players on the field. Like,
Mhm.
that final stretch drive, like I want Brees Hall on the field as much as humanly possible. And to me, it's like they go to that rotation thing with Dalvin Cook, and it bothered me, dude, because now it's like it seems like Dalvin Cook's a step slow, not really comfortable in the offense, where it's like Michael Carter looks better, Brees Hall looks better. I think in passing downs, they like Michael Carter in the game because he's a better on blitz pickup. But it's like I wish Brees Hall would just get those chances, man. Like you can't worry about contracts and feelings when the game's on the line. Like, are you surprised that like I want Brees in the like fourth quarter, like Brees Hall should be getting the ball, Garrett Wilson, like feed your stars, dude.
Yeah, 100%. And I know I know the sample size is really small with Brees,
Yep.
but I will go as far as to say that Brees Hall is the best player on the Jets offense.
Yep.
I think just when we compare the entire Jets offensive depth chart, to me, Brees Hall is the top guy. He is and should be the focal point. He should be the guy that everybody within the organization, Hackett, Downing, all these different members on the offensive staff, they look at Brees as saying he's the go-to,
Yep.
right? He's the Derrick Henry of the Tennessee Titans, right? He's the Justin Jefferson of the Minnesota Vikings. It's Brees Hall, and Garrett Wilson is right behind him, but
Yep.
Brees is just to me on a completely different level.
100%.
And I'm with you. I like in big critical situations, he needs to be touching the football.
Yep.
I feel like whether it's a catch, whether it's a run up the middle to the outside, whatever it is, he has an opportunity to take it the distance. He bounces off a contact. He doesn't just go down immediately. He's explosive with the football in his hands. I will say this though, going into the year, I mean, we kind of talked about it too in previous episodes, but it's like I wonder if the knee is still in the minds of the coaching staff and
Yeah.
I know it's a tough pill to swallow saying Brees is out there, he's looking good, he's looking explosive, he's saying he's totally fine and totally healthy, and you kind of have to act as like a governor with Hall and like, all right, well, we're not just gonna grind you down in week 4, you know what I mean?
He only had
And
like 6 carries though, dude. It wasn't a lot. Like it's just like even like
well,
if you're
we were throwing a ton. I think Wilson had 39 passing attempts yesterday. But go ahead. Sorry to cut you off.
no, but I'm saying that's the whole thing. It's like, listen, if he had like 20 carries, like, all right, maybe we're pushing our luck with him. But it's like, all right, this is a heat of the moment game. Don't force Dalvin Cook into the game plan where you know he's not your best player. Like you said, like a screen pass out of backfield, but just get the ball in Brees' hand, dude, because he's one missed tackle away from taking it. It's just, and I was really, really frustrated by that. And it's like a lot of this gets lost and everybody focusing on the penalties, but the little in-game decisions the Jets make, I fear that they got to force they promised Dalvin Cook a certain amount of action, and they're going to give it to him no matter what. And that's not what's best for the team at this point. Like in the first 3 quarters, mix them in, don't really care. Fourth quarter, game on the line, Brees Hall should be in the game the entire quarter. Like as much, unless he says, you know what, I need a breather, that's fine. Like that kind of annoyed me a little bit because I'm just like, you want to win so bad. You know what I mean?
For sure. And it does make me kind of wonder too, because the Jets have admitted they are like analytical to a certain degree. Yep. They've talked about snap counts and percentages with the offensive line. They've talked about snap counts and rotational percentages with the defensive line. Guys coming back from injury, whether it's like a Carl Lawson or a Mekhi Becton. Even Rodgers, when he first tweaked his calf in the start of training camp, like there was like there was a method to the madness on why they were kind of keeping him out. So I wonder if there's somebody within the organization, whether it's Saleh, whether it's somebody that we don't know, that is still saying, hey, it's early, it's week 4. We're kind of going into the game with the understanding that Brees Hall is really like maximum only going to get like 10, 12 carries. And we're just going to see, we're going to go in with that mindset. And then like, as the game progresses, it's just like, all right, now it's, we're throwing it a ton just because of the in-game situations and stuff like that. I was honestly shocked that Wilson threw the ball as much as he did.
Yeah.
I felt like every single time under center, just boom, play action, pull it back. But no, I mean, to your point, like Brees Hall to me is the top player on the squad. Garrett Wilson is right behind him. Those two guys need to be featured. I'm not saying they aren't, but maybe by whatever week 7, week 8 trade deadline time, it's going to be more Brees Hall, more Dalvin Cook on the bench.
Yeah, and then you go from the running backs to the wide receivers. And my thing was, Give Garrett Wilson targets, dude. Like, if Aaron Rodgers is in the game, they're gonna get the ball like Devontae Adams. Give the ball to your best playmaker on offense as much as humanly possible. So they featured Garrett Wilson a ton. But the really cool thing is something that we've talked about for 3 weeks now is they spread the ball around. Get Xavier Gibson in the game. You got Randall Cobb involved. You got Lazard involved. Like, for the receivers, the Hardman thing, I don't understand. I don't understand why they didn't incorporate him more, because you can do jet sweeps. You can do little things to give him the ball in space and use his speed. But I love the fact they got Garrett Wilson involved a lot, because the offense feeds off his energy. The defense has to hold him accountable. And then it's like, all right, then they're going to double down on Garrett Wilson. These other guys can get open. Lazard can go deep or whatever else. So I like that they opened up the playbook. I like, you mentioned the play action worked, and they made a lot of big plays. They dropped some passes, but like, I like the way they use everybody, and that was so much different than the last 2 weeks.
For sure. And like, another mistake, you just said it, they dropped a pass. It was the one that popped in my mind was the touchdown that Conklin dropped. I believe that was on a 3rd down early in the game, where it's just like, dude, you got to come down with that. Of course, at that point in the game, you didn't necessarily know that Wilson was going to continue, ascending in his play, but you're thinking it's early. It's against KC. You're already down multiple scores. You got to come down with that grab there,
Michael Carter too, big one.
Yep, Michael Carter. And Wilson made a great play on that too, where he rolled out, he was extending the play and then hit him. And Carter had I don't know if that was on a 3rd down.
I think it was.
Or not.
It was a big one though.
Yeah, regardless, I was pissed when it happened. But no, I think you're spot on. The one thing I will say though, Zach did a really good job of just passing the football, really being the point guard. I think I counted 9 or 10 different guys that caught a pass.
Yep.
Which I think is huge, because it's not like Wilson is just locked on to Garrett Wilson. Hey, I know he's really good. Please get open. Please get open. He's not. I'm throwing it anyway. He was coming off his first read, which I thought was awesome. And like you said, because Garrett Wilson was so effective early on, I think that's one of the reasons why like Uzama slipped free on that play action with the TD, and Alan Lazard hit him like with that deep. I think it was off of a play action bootleg. In the second half, I believe, or could have even been in the first half. I'm not even sure, but Lazard had that big play down the field. I think, if you get Garrett involved early and he's coming down with 3rd down snags and whatnot, putting some like moves on players, on, defenders, picking up like a quick 3 extra 5, 7 yards, it kind of bends and forms the idea in Spagnola's head and, future DC's heads. It's like, okay, we got to make sure where's 17, where is he at? We have to account for him. And then the second that happens, boom, everything else opens up, but then it's up to the O-line. Can you block? Can you win one-on-ones? And then from there, can Zach go out there and execute and not look like a deer in headlights? So to me, everything was working, from especially going from week 3 to week 4, to me, we look like a completely different football team.
Yeah, and like getting Ruckert involved. And it's like, I think Ruckert was a guy that we were begging to get him the ball. He's a huge target. And it's like the one thing that I've learned over the years watching football is if you're getting everybody involved, they will all run their routes. They're all going to compete. Like, if you know you're not getting the ball, not that they say they half-ass things, but they're like, all right, I'm not getting the ball. Now they're like, listen, this kid's spreading around. Like, if I'm getting open, I'm getting the ball. That's Aaron Rodgers' biggest selling point. Like, listen, you be where you're supposed to be. I will get you the ball somehow, some way. They were doing it. He was getting the ball. And they're making great catches, too. Ruckert had like 2 great grabs. They're all doing it. It's like, all right, they're all buying in. It was flowing. It made sense. And he looked so comfortable and confident. And then they were getting confidence. Like, all right, like you could see like they were rallying around him. Like, this kid's got it. Took some hits, got back up. The 2-point conversion was incredible, where he just, that was the Zach you love right there, dude. That was like, that's the athlete and like the competitive instinct that came out of him. Like, I want this 2-point conversion. I'm going to sell out to get it. And you're like, that's leadership there. That's where the teammates are like, you know what? This kid, this is what we've been seeing. This is what we wanted to see from you. And it rallies everybody. So, tight ends did a lot of good things. The receivers did. And the offensive line, Tippmann, dude, quietly is playing really well at guard, dude.
Yeah, he's looking really, he looks like an, granted, again, small sample size here, but he's looking like a solid NFL starter right now.
Yeah.
It's
encouraging.
100%. I mean, especially considering that we're going up against some stacked defenses like New England, Kansas City, of course we got Denver and Philly the next couple of weeks, but so Tippmann does have his work. It's not over. He has to continue the good play, but man, I'm totally impressed. Right. And again, it's just like, I don't care if we're talking OC. I don't care if we're talking QB, running back, O-line, whatever, defense. Are we getting better? Are we taking steps in the right direction? This
Yep.
is not like, and I'm sure, we're going to preview Denver here in a little bit, but if Tippmann goes out there against Denver and looks, puts up another solid performance, it's just going to instill more and more and more confidence in him and, the fans and coaches as
Yep.
the weeks go forward. And it's just like, you never know, at the end of the year, we can be looking at AVT and Joe Tippmann as two of the best, when you talk about like tandems, right, at specific positions, when you have two like really young players that look like stars, but they're still like on their rookie contracts and you can kind of maximize that. Who knows? Maybe the Jets are going to be in that situation.
Yeah, no doubt. And then you look at, before we go into defense, I had a couple questions for you. It's like, I got a little bit frustrated. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, because Saleh preaches the all gas, no break. The offense is moving. They're doing a lot of good things. 4th and 1, they don't go for it. 4th and 3, twice they don't go for it. And they play a night game. So when they play at night, you get to watch football all day long. And all throughout the NFL, a lot of coaches, anything less 4th and 3, they're going for it, dude. A lot of them are doing it. You see Sirianni, guys, and it's like you see Saleh do that, and you're like, man, like your instinct. I know he explained the one word on 4th and 3. He's like, well, I'm kicking a field goal anyway. It's only 30 seconds. Like, I don't care. But I'm like, yeah, that mindset reminded me of Todd Bowles. I'm like, dude, you got to be like to me, like watching it real time, I was like, you're not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs kicking field goals. Like you just felt like you get the ball to Mahomes at the end of the game. Like you want to score points. Like you kind of get greedy. How were you with Sal's approach to like the 4th down situations? Were you cool with it? Or were you kind of like, you know what? I probably would have went for that.
Yeah. So I'm kind of on the other side of the fence. From your perspective, I like your mindset, but I think, when I think back to me watching the game, and because I always try to put myself in the shoes of the head coach,
Yeah.
right? Is it a good call? Is it a good decision? Especially when it comes to like clock management and stuff. And Todd Bowles, absolute disaster with the clock management back in the day. But to be honest, I'm actually fine, with
Okay.
like, especially going into halftime with that long kick, which I believe ended up just, bouncing off the upright.
Yep.
I was fine with it because my mindset was, okay, it's a young team. We're down so many points early on. We kind of got some momentum with the safety and that field goal. Let's continue. And we got the ball back when we're starting to move down the field, and we're getting the ball back in the second half.
Yep.
So let's just keep chipping away. Let's, let's end this drive with points. I know it's going to be a difficult field goal regardless.
Yep.
And we have seen a lot of times before in the past where we get to the red zone and then we see that interception.
Yeah.
And I think Saleh was kind of in the mindset of, let's just get another 3. Let's see the deficit shrink a little bit, and let's not have some sort of backbreaking mistake going into halftime. And it's just like, all right, like just another thing to overcome. So of course I'm not fine with Zerline missing the damn thing, but I was okay with that decision. I know a lot of people weren't, but personally speaking, I was.
Yeah, I was getting a little aggressive. I think I was just like feeling it. I'm like, oh man, like this is like an opportunity right in front of us. So then you go from the offense with a lot of good things. The defense, now it's gonna come off negative, but we'll explain it. But like this defense always comes out slow in the big games, dude. I don't understand why. And this is going back to last year too. Jaguar game, Seattle game. Like before you know it, even last week, the Patriot game, like they start out slow every week. And you're like, I mean, the Chiefs scored in the first 3 drives, I think, right? It was I know it was the first 2 drives, or first 3. I'm like, how like this is like in a game like this on this stage, like what are we doing? Like you gotta like get off the field, make plays. They look slow. They looked like they were just missing tackles and just being out coached. And I was so frustrated, dude. I'm like, how are we starting out like this? Because the last thing you want is the Zach to be down, boom, like that. We're down. You mean like there's already pressure on them to have your offense come on the field down, you're already down points.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I'll give opposing defensive coordinators a pass whenever they're playing the Chiefs and Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. Like in that opening drive, like, hey, if Mahomes and Reid can get down the field on you with like the scripted plays and the exact game plan they've been studying your defense for, an entire week, I'll give you a pass there. But for me, it was like in drives 2 and drives 3 where they just went right down the field, just not even an issue. It's just like like a hot knife through butter, just boom. And you're thinking, I don't want to bring up the DJ Reed comments or anything like that, but you're looking at the names on the paper and you're knowing what these guys are getting paid and where some of these guys were drafted and all the hype and whatnot. It is disappointing, right? Because if you pride yourself on playing that lockdown great defense, hard nose, we're going to intimidate the opposing quarterback. Nobody's going to get open. We're going to attack the quarterback, just constantly live in the backfield, and to just be down 17-0. I believe I think the Chiefs actually had the 17 all in the first quarter.
Yep.
Could be wrong. Yes. Yeah. So obviously it's not a good look. It's almost like Saleh and Ulbrich, like every week they have like a handful of ideas on how the opposing offense is going to come out, and they
Yeah.
guess wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, okay, once we start like seeing what the offense is doing, it's like, okay, now we have the answers to the test, if you will, and we can start making adjustments from here. But it's
Yep.
like, to start out games, it's just like, we don't really know. We're gonna wait and see, what are they
Yep.
doing? Okay, this is what we're doing. Bam, we're locked in. And maybe it's a player thing too, but I do think it's more so on coaches,
Yeah.
because we have seen this for 3 straight years with Robert Saleh,
Yeah.
and we've seen a lot of turnover at different positions.
Yeah, it seemed to be a constant over the last couple of years, dude, where they start out slow, they make adjustments. Second half, they lock it down, they look better, but like, don't give up those 17 points. Like, keep it. And I'm like you made a great point. The scripted plays. All right, you got out coaching the scripted play part. Now both teams make adjustments based on the results, and you go from there. And dude, I'll say this: if I'm a Joe Douglas, I give Bryce Huff an extension today. Bryce Huff is easily one of your best pass rushers. He is ridiculously disruptive. He changed the game last night. And this is something we said last year, dude. Like, get him on the field. He's better than Carl Lawson. And him and Jermaine Johnson on the edge with their explosive nature, they collapse the pocket, they do, and they're relentless too. It's like that changes everything. And I was a Carl Lawson guy. Listen, he's been battling injuries, back injury, whatever other things he has. Listen, I know they paid him a lot of money. He came here, but he's like a platoon guy now. Like, you got to sit behind these kids and watch, because they're just too good to have on the bench. But Bryce Hubb should be here for a long time, dude. There's no way, regardless of what you think of Will McDonald. I mean, don't you think he's that good?
Yeah, and another thing, I think that it's not really too relevant now, like with Robert Saleh, but just another like feather in the cap of Bryce Huff. He was brought in by the pass regime when we were running the 3-4 defense, and he was explosive then as an undrafted free agent. Like, he not only just like made the team and was turning some heads in camp, but I remember he was looking pretty good like in games in a completely different style of defense. Saleh takes over. A lot of people were expecting Huff to either be released or, get traded, because he's just like, hey, he's a 3-4, edge rusher, 3-4 outside linebacker type of guy. But he just moves positions to that 4-3 D end, and he's making a lot of noise. And no, it's a great point. It's always a luxury to have multiple pass rushers. But when you have good ones, you got to keep them. Like, I don't want to be in a position where, and I do feel like the Will McDonald pick kind of, it was made with the foresight of, okay, Huff might want a lot of money next season. We might lose him. Carl Lawson, I don't know if the Jets are gonna be bringing him back. Thankfully, we have Jermaine Johnson. But it's more so like a forward thinking type of approach, kind of like a college football type of approach, where it's just like another like good recruiting class in behind another good recruiting class. But I mean, we'll see what happens there. But no, I think Bryce Huff looked great. I think, dude, the linebacker play was fantastic. Outside of Mosley dropping the interception, but my boy Quincy Williams all over the field, making plays, big hits. Mosley had the pick, right? He dropped the other one, but no, I think the linebacker play was awesome, coming up and stopping the run, especially like late in the game. Mosley was just Mosley looked like he was playing on another gear in the fourth quarter. Like, he was flying around the field.
Yeah, and I think Quincy Williams is almost like a Pro Bowler now, man. Quincy Williams is another level. His speed, tenacity, he's in the backfield all the time. Like, he over pursues once in a while, which is fine, but like what he's doing now is incredible, dude. And Mosley is like the best, like a good compliment next to him. Like, they're both like, he's like the thumper, dude. He's hitting everybody. The dropped interception drove me crazy. I'm like, that would have been a huge one, but he makes up where he gets it. And in the fourth quarter, they kind of step up a little bit. I mean, like that last 7 minutes is kind of annoying, how they were just getting kind of picked apart, and you can tell they were getting a little tired and frustrated. Sherwood's kind of been like, he's on the field, but you don't really know what he's doing out there. But like the defensive front, even Quentin Jefferson, dude, he did a lot of good things. John Franklin Myers, like when they didn't play Woods, when Woods was inactive, I'm like, oh, watch the Chiefs run the ball a lot. And you saw Pacheco just go run amok. But they stepped up though. Like they that front was getting after. If they got gouged early, they were tenacious. And the thing is, like, they talk about being this top level defense. You started seeing they play with passion. They were hitting hard. And then you go like in the secondary, like Jordan Whitehead was trying to hit anything that moved. Like he wasn't really trying
Yeah.
to tackle. He was trying to hit everybody. Like he just didn't, he was just running crazy out there, which was, it was good to see. You know, it's just, they make like the mistakes, the untimely mistakes, man. Like the one that DJ Reed ran right past Mahomes, like just ran past them, like things like that. It's just like those little things where it's early in the season. You're like, all right, hopefully they get cleaned up as the season plays out more, you know?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, big picture here, and I completely understand that it's not what every fan wants to hear,
Mm-hmm.
but big picture, we made a handful of mistakes
Yep.
last night, and we were toe to toe with the defending Super Bowl champs.
Yep.
I think that says something when we're already a multi-possession uh point underdog going into the game, and the entire country is literally saying the Jets have no
Yep.
chance in hell to even make this a competition. And we were right there. Like if this is something I talked about in the I think it was the recap video I posted. I was just like, if Mosley comes down with that interception, does the score look different at the end? If Gardner doesn't get flagged on that hold, does the score look different? If, the defense allowed maybe 10 points out of the gate
Yep.
instead of the 17, how does that look at the end of the game? And we can talk about like even like the smaller stuff too, like the Conklin TD drop, the Michael Carter drop, just little things like that, it's holding Mahomes on like a 3rd and 20
Yeah.
scramble around, for a first down. It's just
Yep.
like in those little moments, the big moments of the game, or I shouldn't say little moments, but yeah, the big moments of the game. It's just like I feel like the precision, the detail always goes against the Jets.
Yep.
And again, I hate to say it, but I feel like that is a Saleh thing. We've seen that
Yep.
numerous times, especially last season, like against Baltimore, against Cincinnati, where it was just like, whether it's, like that late flag that, oh, it's roughing the passer. It's just like, man, or like a late hit out of bounds, or a blown coverage on the back end. Just, situations like that. So I totally hear you. One thing I really wanted to ask you though, because we're kind of in the same boat. We're kind of optimistic about the future as opposed to maybe last week where it was more so pessimistic. Denver, right? This is a humongous game.
Yes.
Like if the Jets lose next week, I'm going right back into how I was last Monday, right?
Yep.
When I look at the Broncos, they're a mess defensively.
Yep.
They have names, right? They got some good players, but you look at that Bears. I personally felt like it was the Bears lost that game as opposed to the Broncos stepping up and winning it.
100%.
I mean, some of the decisions that were being made by Eberflus and co, they were just ridiculous. So I don't want to sit here and say that Denver like lucked into a win or anything like that. But man, when I watch the Broncos, it's just like there's a lot of question marks. Like if I was a diehard Bronco fan, I would be looking at this team like, man, what is happening? What is going on? We're paying so much money, for big name players. Sean Payton, like there's big names all over the place. But what is your mindset going into this game? Is this a must win for you? For me, I think it is.
100%. It is a must win on so many different levels because first and foremost, you want to build on what we just saw. You don't want to have this great game against the Kansas City Chiefs, go out to Denver, lay a dud, and then you're 1-4. Be like, all right, now we're back where we are. More questions at quarterback. Is the season over? Like this game keeps you relevant. It keeps you in the mix, man. I mean, you got to get that win. Another conference game in case you think about tiebreakers down the line. But I think it's really, really important. And I think the one benefit the Jets have, coming off a loss, is all the trash talk between Sean Payton and Hackett, where that little Sean Payton talking down. They're gonna have some fire in their ass, all that, because they're gonna be like, you know what? This is our coach you talked about. So it helps them rally a little bit because you worry about that emotional letdown. You lost at home, you're kind of down, you're traveling, West Coast, all that stuff. So it's like, all right, will they be flat? They're not gonna be flat. They're gonna be motivated. And I think they're gonna realize, listen, man, we can't keep losing games. Like at the end of the day, it's about winning, dude. Like you lost 2 close games, terrible. You could complain about penalties all you want, doesn't matter, you still lost. Now you've got to bounce back. And that's like, you want to see Zach bounce back and keep playing consistently. The defense has got to step up. And, I think this game is crucial, dude. You're going to learn a lot about the Jets on Sunday. I really think so, because it's going to be pride. And you just know that you need a sense of urgency. Like you can't come out flat. You've got to get this win.
Yeah, 1000%, man. I totally agree with you. It's just like, again, if we come out flat on Sunday, I'm going to have I'm going to be irate, if I don't even want to really talk about the Jets even like potentially losing the game, but yeah, the Hackett thing comes into play. So many things come into play here, but I think like the mentality in the locker room, like based off of what the Jets look like in the first half, that's going to be a direct reflection of what the Jets feel internally.
Yes.
If we're out there looking flat and confused and look like we don't want to be out there just like against Dallas and New England, it's it's not going to be a good look for Saleh, for Ulbrich, for Hackett, for the players. There's specific players that always kind of play with like their hair's on fire, but I'm talking collectively as a unit. It's absolutely monumental this week. You cannot go down to Denver and regress, drop to 1-4, and then have the Eagles the following week. And also we have to play Miami twice and Buffalo again at some point. It cannot happen. It's absolutely unacceptable. So a win is in my crosshairs. That's what I'm shooting for. As long as we get the W, I am fine. I don't want to see regression. I just want to see us continue to take steps in the right direction. But I'll go as far as to say this. I think, if we're in a world where the Jets look the same exact way against the Chiefs next Sunday, I think that's a win.
100%. No, I think so too. And that's what the expectation should be. Like, we kind of lowered our standards because we thought Zach was bad. So we're like, all right, run the football, play good defense, get a break on special teams. We'll keep the game close and try to find a way to win. Well, now if we're like, this was like, we finally watched an NFL offense, dude. Like, that was an NFL offense last night for the first time in like 2 years, minus the Mike White games. Like, Zach, like, you're like, all right, we're like, we can actually throw the ball downfield more than 10 yards, like you talked about, right? So now it's like, all right, if that's our expectation, we should expect to win games. Like Saleh said it last night himself, dude. He's like, listen, if Zach plays like this, we're going to win a lot of games. Well, you said that. Now it needs to happen. Like, the one thing I'm kind of getting uncomfortable with is the teams accepting losing a lot now, where it's like, oh, well, we played really well, but it's a better team. It's a better team. The Broncos aren't a better team. Hands down, they are not a better team than you are. You're the better team. You should win this game. I don't care if it's on the road or not, because the Bears are terrible, dude. The Bears are awful. They choked that game away. So I don't know, man. I think this is a game where, like you said, you'll learn in the first half what's going on with this team in terms of leadership, ability. But this should be, you want to see a motivated team coming out. But listen, we want to get back in the hunt here, because 1-4, you're digging a hole you probably can't get out of.
Yeah, and again, like, we still have tough teams later down the road. So, we have to stack the winnable games. You know what I mean? Like, it's just imperative. And like, another thing too, it's like, these guys are young. Like, everybody's on social media and stuff. Like, they'll see if the Jets go over to Denver and lay an egg and we fall to 1-4, it's just like, I just don't want motivation and all that kind of stuff to start going by the wayside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want us to keep, like, if we go to Denver and win, like, I mean, again, last night took the Super Bowl champs to the end, final minutes. With a couple of, horrible penalties. If we can take that, go to Denver, get a win, I'm going to be feeling great going into Philly. Because then it's like, there's that belief in the locker room with the coaches, with the players, that it's like, now we're starting to find our groove. We're not, down in the dumps from Dallas or New England. Like, we've turned the corner. So that's kind of my mindset with it. And is there anything more that you wanted to like really add about like the Bronco game or kind of, what we saw last night?
Yeah, the thing is too, is also winning is a great deodorant. So if they win in Denver and guys aren't getting the ball or guys aren't doing things, nobody's going to really say anything. But to me, it's like, you lose a game like that and say Dalvin Cook only gets 4 carries or whatever, like things like that's when season starts going, when you lose 3 in a row, players are pissed. And then the little leaks come out, all the dissension comes out, all like that other stuff starts happening. Winning avoids a lot of that stuff. So it's going to buy everybody more time. So I think is good. Now, we didn't touch on the penalties at all, and which is probably good, because I know we're all pissed off about it.
Yeah.
Watching the game live, I mean, what I don't understand about it is watching the game live, like, you saw the holding with Jermaine Johnson. It was obvious. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes has 8 seconds in the pocket to throw a ball, it's either ridiculously good coverage downfield, especially the Jets pass rush, or somebody's getting held. And they're obviously getting held. And it's like, it annoys you, dude, because like, for me, I'm an older fan. The Jets never get calls, bro. Never. We never get, our quarterback never gets rough. We never get late hits on our quarterback. It just seems like we never get those beneficial calls in a big moment. Like, it's just, even the Gardner one I could see, like like locally, Tiki Barber broke it down. Tiki's like, listen, man, based on what I saw, I would have called it, but you got to be more consistent. You got to call it all game long, not just in the fourth quarter. But what'd you think about the penalties?
Yeah, right. I think my argument or my question for Tiki there would be, that's like if you want to look at that individual play and say like, oh, it is a flag, it isn't a flag. I'm cool. I'm fine with whatever decision that you want to go with,
Yep.
right? That's not my issue. My issue is that whether you decide to make the call or not make the call, every play that is just like that, similar, needs to
Yep.
result in the same flag or no flag. There
Yep.
can't be this 50-50. Well, we don't really know.
Yep.
Players don't really know. Fans don't really know. Media doesn't really know. We have like a million different, opinions on it. Everybody's chiming in and saying like, it's 100% a flag. Oh, it's 100% not a flag. Nobody even knows. And what pisses me off too about the NFL officiating, which is like a big problem, I feel
Yep.
like in the sport,
Yep.
is it's not just holding. It's pass interference.
Yes.
It's roughing the passer. It's
Yep.
late hits. It's look, I totally understand wanting to protect the players, and
Yep.
I get it from the NFL's perspective. Like they want to see points, they want to see highlights, and all that kind of stuff. Protect the quarterbacks. I get it, but there needs to be like consistency from the league, like because I guarantee you we're going to see plays, whether it's the Jets or not, next week from corners that do the same exact thing that Sauce Gardner does, and it will not be called.
Yep.
And we're going to see a tackle grab Jermaine Johnson or grab another player just like he grabbed Johnson,
Yep.
and it's going to be a holding. And that's where my issue is, because it's like you enter in these games and nobody has a clue. And everybody, you have one side that's irate. And in the Jets case last night, unfortunately, the outcome could have been different if Carter picked that ball off and it was fine. It was Jets ball. Or whatever it was. Johnson, like the Chiefs got that hold on Johnson, and that was called, because I think at that point it would have been like 3rd and 28 or 3rd and 30 or something.
Yep.
Of course, there's no guaranteeing it because Saleh has like a track record for allowing like third and long conversions. But the point is, it's just like I really don't. Whether you're for the call or against the call, it doesn't really matter to me. It's just like, from here, like what's the precedent that's being set? It's just like we have no idea. Refs don't have a clue. Players don't have a clue. Fans, media, nobody has. It's just like a judgment call. And if the judgment call ends up being the wrong one, it is what it is. Sorry, you lose.
Yep.
That's what it is, and that's what gets me so irritated.
Yeah, and that's the one thing. Like I always joke around. Like if you were going to teach somebody the game, somebody never watched football in their entire life. Okay, listen, let's watch a game together. I'm going to explain to you holding, pass interference, things like that. You wouldn't be able to explain it because we've been watching football forever, dude. We watch games all Sunday long. I'll watch tonight. You watch, you'd be like, well, that should be pass interference, but that's not. Then this, like you don't know. It's like, what mood is the ref in? Is he in a good mood, bad mood? Like it's just. And, like people joke around like the NFL's rigged, stuff like that. But like some of these calls, you're like, bro, like that's crazy. Like, and then it's like, well, what quarterback got hit? If that's Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady, you're going to get the call. If it's Zach Wilson, you're not getting the call. And it shouldn't be like that. And as Jet fans, we're used to being on the wrong side of it for the most part. For years, we never get calls. And I guess hopefully winning changes that. But really, really frustrating. And I guess my other question for you is, they're sitting there, they lost a couple games in a row. You're frustrated. But to me, it's like it's a 17-game season. So if they could play like they played last night, I'm like, to me, like I kind of wrote off playoffs because I was like, we're not making the playoffs. We suck. Like we have no offense. We can't compete. But now it's like you kind of start thinking the same thing. You're like, listen, man, you have a tough schedule, but you saw Miami get smacked around by the Bills. We've already beaten the Bills once. And a lot of these teams that we think are great aren't really that great. Like the Eagles should have lost yesterday to the Commanders. The Eagles should have lost that game. Like a lot of these teams, it's truly at this NFL between injuries and the inconsistency of play and officiating, it's really any given Sunday. So the Jets aren't out of it by any means. It's just a matter of cleaning up these mistakes. The offensive line seems solidified, but like they could stay in the hunt, dude. But it starts Sunday though. Like you kind of think like, playoffs aren't out of the question if you can just kind of clean this up and just get more consistent.
Yeah, dude. I mean, look at Cincy.
Oh, yeah.
They just got blown out by the Titans. Look at Pittsburgh, blown out by the Texans, man. Like, there's a lot of teams out there. To me right now, it's looking like the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Niners and the Eagles too. Those four teams are kind of above the. I guess I'll throw Miami in there too. I don't want to just write them off after one game. Obviously, those five teams are like the class of the NFL, in my opinion, right now. They're well coached. They have deep rosters, talent on both sides of the football, franchise quarterbacks. They aren't like one injury away from complete panic mode. Like Trey White, I don't know if you saw, is out for the year with the Achilles.
Sad.
Bills fans aren't panicking. They're like, man, it's a blow. We have a replacement. We'll be fine. Like, of course, that's where I want the Jets to be. But to your point, with how many teams make the playoffs these days, and with that extra game loaded in on the back end of the schedule, like we got to rack up wins at some point in the season. And I'm totally happy we're turning the corner, or at least based off of this one game. I don't want to jinx, myself here or anything. Let me knock on wood, but I'm happy we're starting to click in week 4 as opposed to week 9.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I mean, because we saw what happened with the Lions last year. They started out like just atrocious. They were putting out atrocious football, and then they went on this massive winning streak, and they finished the season with like this huge wave of momentum. Made a couple offseason moves, just loaded up another draft class and whatnot. And we're seeing what the Lions are doing this year so far. So, it's again, I'm happy that the Jets are starting to click again based off of this one game. Hopefully it kind of stays like that in week 4 here, as opposed to the week 9 and week 10, week 11, where it's just like too little too late.
Yeah, well, you look at the Jets last year, they started out strong and they melted. They lost, 6 or 7 end of the season, where it's like, this could be the opposite, but it's like, again, I see it.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think when I think about last season, I think about the injuries and just piling up and just like, man, Breece Hall's our guy, boom, out for the year. AVT's such a stud, boom, out for the year. And just the constant cycling on the offensive line. It was just like, we were just rolling out like I felt like a different roster every single week. And then of course, the Zach Wilson mistakes and we don't even need to rehash last season falling apart. But with this season, it's just like, I feel like hopefully the struggles are behind us. They're in the rear view. We have identified them, and we can now move forward and build upon it.
Yeah, 100%. We didn't mention Ashton Davis too. Ashton Davis with a friggin' interception. The guy, I mean, I've wanted him off this team for like 2 years now, man. I can't stand him. But it's just, they're all contributing. I'm excited, man. I'm like, the loss sucked. Like, I was so annoyed last night going to bed. The penalties, the loss. You're like, we lost another one in a row, close game. But now it's like, you wake up today, you're like, all right, it stings, but they have an opportunity now. They have a chance to kind of turn this around starting this week, and they could be really relevant because everybody's losing games. Like you mentioned, the Bengals are a mess. Like, teams that everybody's going to be great. It's kind of like the parity in the NFL is wild, dude. So it's just, it's going to be interesting, man. I'm interested to see how they bounce back. I'm excited. This is going to be, I think, my last question for you is, I think Aaron Rodgers being back in the building was enormous, dude. I think he came in and said, listen, we got to cut all this nonsense out. We got to stop pointing fingers at each other. We got to rally each other. I think him being there for Zach, in Zach's ear, talking him through things, help him out. I think that was enormous, dude. Like, his leadership, his mentorship, the way they respect him, look up to him, I think was pivotal last night. I think that paid huge dividends.
100%. Yeah, I think if A-Rod did not go, we might have looked a little bit different. I know that sounds like that's a big statement. Right. But Rodgers just has an influence on that. And, I get it. Ideally you would want Saleh to be that guy.
Should be.
Like, he's the head coach of the football team. Like, it's kind of like, I was talking to my brother about it yesterday before the game. He's just like, and because he was confused on why Rodgers was there, because of the Achilles. He's just like, shouldn't he be like away from the team, like rehabbing? I'm like, yeah, he flew from California back to New York for like support and to like address the team. And he's kind of like, isn't that Saleh's job? Like, why does the injured Aaron Rodgers having to fly across the country to like tell the team to, not point fingers and whatnot, which I understand, his side of it, his perspective. But on the other hand, it's just like, hey, I'm fine taking it. I'm grateful that Aaron's here and he actually did that. So, it's clear that, he has a major influence on this roster.
Yeah, 100%, man. That is like that voice of reason. I think it's just the calming effect on Zach too. Like, listen, these are mistakes you're making. This we can look for. Just like that's what Calabrese should be doing too, like the quarterback coach.
Yeah,
right?
Yep.
But it's like that was, I think, it played a big role too. Now with that, they're like a united team where you have your leader back, and then you just move forward with it. So I think having him in the building this week too is going to help him too. I'm like, all right, listen, bad loss, like kind of get a sense of urgency. It's gonna be interesting, man. I'm looking forward to it. This is like, never think Jets Broncos gonna be a big game, but it's a big game for the team.
Yeah, no, next week should be crazy. The pod next week should be crazy. I feel like we're going to have a lot more answers to our questions that Monday, right, following Denver, as opposed to right now where it's just like, can we continue? Can we keep this up? Can Zach keep up the good play? What's the game plan with Hackett going to be looking like? A lot of different question marks as we stand right now, but I'm definitely feeling a lot more optimistic as opposed to, last week.
100%, man. We'll like this time next week, we're going to be happy and excited, or just like, I can't believe we're here again, 1-4 and a mess. So
the roller coaster. Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. Well, is there anything more that you wanted to add, or
that's it, man? I'm good.
Awesome, dude. Well, yeah, we'll catch everybody next week. It's, like we were saying, like that Denver game, it's going, like, all eyes are going to be on that Bronco game, man. All eyes, every single play is going to be just gut wrenching, right? Positive or negative, just it's going to be crazy. But I appreciate everybody hanging out, watching. Thanks so much. And as always, go Jets.